Hello students, welcome to IASbyheart. Welcome to the ninth session of the Prelims Heist series. In this series, we have planned to cover more than 500 questions which can feature in your UPSC Prelims 2021. So without further delay, let's jump into the first question. So the first question is about the money bill. Okay, the money bill may only be introduced in the Lok Sabha. That's the first statement. It must be passed in Lok Sabha by a special majority of all members present and voting. Okay, this is the second statement. Let's see the third statement. It may be sent to the Rajya Sabha for its recommendations, which the Lok Sabha may accept or reject. Okay, we know that in money bill, Lok Sabha has greater powers than Rajya Sabha. So third statement is correct. So that will eliminate option number A and option number B. We only have to look at option number 2 to arrive at the answer. So second statement says it must be passed in Lok Sabha by a special majority. We know that money bill is a different kind of bill, but it requires just a simple majority. Special majority is not needed for money bill. So the answer to this question is option C. Okay. So statement 1 is also right. The money bill may only be introduced in Lok Sabha because on money related matters, Lok Sabha has greater power than Rajya Sabha. So let's see more about this money bill in our explanation. A bill is said to be a money bill only if it contains provisions related to taxation, borrowing of money by the government, expenditure from or receipt to the consolidated fund of India. So only if it is related to these three provisions, a bill can be called as money bill. Okay, you also have to note that all money bills are financial bills, but not all financial bills are money bills. Okay, this is one of the important difference which you have to keep in your mind. All money bills are financial bills, but not all financial bills are money bills. Okay, and like our first statement said, it can only be introduced in Lok Sabha, and it is done so on the recommendation of the president, and it must be passed in Lok Sabha by a simple majority. And following this, it may be sent to Rajya Sabha for its recommendations, which the Lok Sabha may reject if it chooses to. So the Lok Sabha has no compulsion to accept Rajya Sabha's recommendations, and if such recommendations are not given within 14 days, it will be deemed to be passed. So there is a time limit on the recommendations that can be brought from the Rajya Sabha as well. And many of the students ask the source of these questions. The source of these questions are nothing but the newspaper. Why I have asked this question is because recently the Supreme Court dismissed Aadhaar review petition. We know that Aadhaar was passed as a money bill. Supreme Court has dismissed the petitions which challenge the Aadhaar bill as money bill. So that's why this was in news. So that's why I asked this question. So it was important to note that Aadhaar Act was passed as a money bill, and the Speaker of the Lok Sabha had classified this bill as a money bill. And you also have to note the Speaker has the ultimate power to decide whether a bill is money bill or not. Within the House, he is the most qualified person to do this. Okay, without any delay, let's move on to the next question. This question is from economy. Okay, this question asks about the reasons for increasing fiscal deficit of the government, fall in income component, increase in public expenditure, decrease in borrowings from multilateral institutions. Okay, I'll give you 30 seconds to arrive at the answer. Here they are asking the reasons for increasing fiscal deficit. So the answer to this question is option A, because 1 and 2 only. Because you see, a fall in government's income component. So government has revenues and expenditure. When revenues fall or when expenditures rise, fiscal deficit will occur. Okay. So in the first question, fall in income component, which means fall in revenue. So this will increase the fiscal deficit. So first option is right. And second is increase in public expenditure. Yes. So if an increase in public expenditure happens, that will also increase fiscal deficit. And third one is decrease in borrowings from multilateral institutions. So if you see, if the government borrows less, then the liability to repay is also less. So if the borrowings decline, fiscal deficit will actually improve, which means fiscal deficit will fall. So the answer to this question is 1 and 2 only. Let's see more about fiscal deficit in the coming slide. So fiscal deficit is nothing but the total expenditure of the government, capital revenue and expenditure minus income of the government, which is revenue receipts plus capital receipts minus borrowings. So this is basically nothing but the borrowings that the government has to do to meet its overall expenditure. Okay. So let's see what are let's see the expenditure component of fiscal deficit. The government in its budget allots funds to several works. So all these works require money. Even payment of salaries, pensions, everything has to be done from the Consolidated Fund of India or the Public Account of India. So these things are, and the creation of assets like laying roads and connecting villages, port development, everything requires money. So these are counted as capital expenditure. Whereas salaries, pensions, these are called as revenue expenditure. Capital expenditure means that you are creating something, you are creating a capital. So anything which results in creation of assets or increased liability for the government comes under capital expenditure. So this is the expenditure component. Okay, let's move on to the income component for the government. So income component is made up of two variables. One is revenue generated from taxes, and another one is income generated from non-tax variables. So the taxable income includes the amount created from corporation tax, income tax, GST, other duties, custom and excise duties, etc. Whereas non-taxable incomes refer to external grants, the grants which we brought from multilateral institutions, etc., interest receipts, dividends, receipts from foreign, receipts from union territories, etc. These things are non-tax income for the government. So these are the different components of the income for the government. So why is this question asked? This question was asked because recently in the post-COVID-19 era, the fiscal deficit hits 12.34 trillion, okay, at the end of January. So this is why this question was asked. So we have to understand why this fiscal deficit rose. Okay, let's move on to the next question. This question is about Senkaku Islands and the dispute for this island territory. Okay, the Senkaku Islands or Diaoyu Islands or Teoyutai Islands. Okay, it is a territorial dispute between Japan and China, Japan and Taiwan, China and Taiwan. Actually, I asked this question to test your patience, because anybody who sees this name, Senkaku Islands, will straight away pick option number A. But the answer to this question is all of the above. Japan, China, Taiwan. All these countries lay claim on this island group. Okay, so it is Japan, China, and Taiwan, all of the above. Let's see about this dispute. This island group, it is in the East China Sea. Okay, it is known by different names in different regions. Senkaku is how we refer it. This is how it is called in Japan, Diaoyu in China, and Teoyutai in Taiwan. So this is the island group. This is where the island is, and you can see from Japan it is 410 kilometer. From Taiwan, it is 170 kilometers, and from China, it is 330 kilometers. It is closest to Taiwan. So Taiwan is also laying claim to this disputed region. So the importance of this island is it is very close to important shipping lanes, and it also is rich in fishing grounds. Okay, it also contains oil deposits as well. Okay, this island chain was administered by Japan since 1972. It is under the control of Japan till now, but its legal status is being disputed. Okay. So what is the Japan's claim? So after World War II, Japan renounced its claims to a number of territories, and this island includes Taiwan as well. Okay, under the 1951 Treaty of San Francisco. But under the treaty, Nansei Shoto Islands came under U.S. trusteeship and were returned to Japan only in 1971. So this Senakaku Islands are a part of Nansei Shoto Islands. So what happened after 1951? Under the 1951 San Francisco Treaty, Japan gave it to USA. In 1971, USA returned it back to Japan. So this Senakaku Islands is a part of the Nansei Shoto Islands, which was returned by USA to Japan. But China raised during that time, China raised no objections to the San Francisco deal. But only after the 1970s, that is after when the region is found to be rich in oil resources, Chinese and Taiwanese authorities began pressing their claims. So after it was told that the region is rich in these resources, they have come to claim them. Okay. So let's see the logic behind China's claim. So China says that these islands have been part of its territory since ancient times. This is the most common logic. If you see, China always says that everything was a part of China since ancient times. So this is cartographic aggression. People call it cartographic aggression. That is, China will bring a map which is almost 1,000 years old or 1,500 years old map. They will bring it and lay claim on a piece of land. That is usually how China uses its history to lay claims on various parts of land across its territory. Okay, and we also can see when Taiwan was returned in the Treaty of San Francisco, China said the islands as a part of it should also have been returned. Okay, we saw that Taiwan was also under Japanese control. Okay, and then it went to US's control. Now the status of Taiwan itself is being challenged because China calls Taiwan as a part of it, but Taiwan calls itself as independent. Okay, that dispute is also going on. So let's move on to the next question. Question number 4 on reports and indices. This is about the India Innovation Index 2020. Okay. So the second edition of the index was released recently by Niti Aayog. Okay, Karnataka retained its leadership position in the major states category. Okay. Among union territories, Delhi remained on top. So the answer to this question, I'll give you 30 seconds. Just type in your answer for this question. So the answer to this question is option D. All the statements given here are true. This is the second edition. Yes, it is released by Niti Aayog, and it was Karnataka which retained its position because Bengaluru is in Karnataka. It is the startup hub, and among the union territories, Delhi remained on top. This is also right. Let's see more about this index in the next slide. Okay, India Innovation Index. So this is to study about the innovation ecosystem of Indian states, and by this we are promoting cooperative federalism. This is also an example of how cooperative and competitive federalism is being promoted. Okay, here the states are categorized into 3 categories: major states, northeast and hill states, union territories, or small states. Okay. So these three categories are there, and in major states, we saw Karnataka had top. So let's see the different parameters. The index is calculated based on two dimensions. The first dimension is enabler, and second is performer. And in enabler, we have 5 pillars: human capital, investment, knowledge workers, business environment, safety, and legal environment. All these 5 factors are considered in enabler section. Enabler means enabler for innovation. Okay. Performer. In performer, we have knowledge output and knowledge diffusion. That is, this dimension captures how a nation benefits, okay, from this innovation. So it has 2 pillars, which is knowledge output and knowledge diffusion. Moving on, this is the second edition of India Innovation Index. This was started in the year 2019, and now in 2020 it is the second edition. Karnataka retained its first position, and in second position we have Maharashtra because of Mumbai, and Maharashtra had moved past Tamil Nadu to occupy the second place. So in the first edition, Tamil Nadu was in the second place, and now it is Maharashtra. So let's see the reason behind Karnataka's rank. The reason is substantive number of venture capital deals, okay, and registered GI tags. Okay, we know about geographical indication tags. A lot of this tags registered in this year were from Karnataka. So this is also a part of intellectual property. This is also a part of innovation. And then information and communication technology exports. Yes, Bangalore exports. Bangalore leads the information and communication tech exports in India. And then high FDI inflow. So these are the reasons behind Karnataka's top rank. And barring Maharashtra, all other states in the top 5 are in the south. Okay, only Maharashtra is the only non-south state in top 5. And Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Bihar, they scored the lowest on the index in the major states category. Okay, and then among union territories, we can see that Delhi topped, Himachal Pradesh topped among northeastern and hilly states. Okay, that's all we have here. And let's see why this question was asked. Because of this, it came in a news report. This is the source for this question. Just go through the highlighted part once, pause the video and go through the highlighted part. Okay. This is basically the information that I have given in the previous slide itself. Let's move on. The fifth question on environment. This is about Gangetic dolphin. Okay. So Gangetic dolphin is included in which of the following? So it first schedule of the Indian Wildlife Protection Act. Appendix 1 of CITES is nothing but the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. Okay, and then Appendix 1 of CMS, Convention on Migratory Species. I want you to give your answers below. The answer to this question is option B, 1 and 2 only. To attend this question, you have to know different schedules in Indian Wildlife Protection Act, different appendices in CITES, and different appendices in Migratory Species, CMS convention. Okay, only if you know all these, you can give an answer to this question. And let's see them one by one. First, let's see about Gangetic dolphin. So Gangetic dolphins, they are generally blind and they catch their prey in a unique manner. Usually they use echolocation technique. Okay, they emit an ultrasonic sound which reaches the prey, and the sound will come back to them. The sound will hit the prey and come back to them. Based on that, they will catch their prey, and locally they are called as susu. Okay, the location, they are mainly found in the Indian subcontinent in the Ganga, Brahmaputra and Meghna river system, and Karnafuli and Sangu river systems. Okay, they are also found in Ganga tributaries. Let's look at the various threats faced by them. Dams disturb their migration because they are usually found in fresh waters. Dams in these rivers disturb their migration, and it also disturbs their breeding cycles, the habitat of fish and other prey, etc. And there is also the problem of pollution, excessive silting, sand mining, especially in Assam and lower courses of Ganga. So these are the threats faced by the species. So let me tell you why I asked this question. So a very sad thing happened. Youth killed endangered dolphin in UP. Gangetic dolphin was attacked and killed brutally by a group of youth. They saw this as an alien species, an alien fish species. So you can see how bad the wildlife awareness is among the people. So they thought it is a very poisonous kind of fish and attacked and killed it in Uttar Pradesh. So this is the reason why we should improve wildlife awareness amongst the people. So let's see about the different schedules in Wildlife Protection Act and different appendices in the conventions. So CITES, it is the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. So it is an international agreement. This is a voluntary agreement. Okay, this is not a mandatory agreement. It is a voluntary agreement to which states and regional economic organization adhere to. Okay, and it was entered into force in July 1975. Currently it has 183 parties. So here we have 3 appendices in CITES. Appendix 1, trade is permitted only in exceptional circumstances. Okay, like African rhinoceros, gorillas, sea turtles, most lady slipper orchids, giant pandas. So we can see that flora and fauna both are included in this appendix. And here trade is permitted only in exceptional circumstances. And Gangetic dolphin is a part of Appendix 1 in CITES. In Appendix 2, trade is strictly controlled. It is not prohibited, and it is not made available only in exceptional circumstances, but generally trade is controlled. Okay, here we can see the example of the species mentioned in this appendix. And Appendix 3 is a request for assistance in controlling the trade of species protected in a specific country. For example, Chilean toad. So Chile had personally requested CITES to control the trade on this species. So those kind of species which are specially requested by countries come under this appendix. Cape stag beetles, walruses, etc. are in Appendix 3. Okay. Let's move on to the Wildlife Protection Act and different schedules under Wildlife Protection Act 1972. So Schedule 1 and Part 2 of Schedule 2 provide absolute protection. So maximum protection is given to these species. Species like tiger, Asiatic lion, even Gangetic dolphin, all of them come under Schedule 1. Okay, most of the state animals of different states come under Schedule 1. And the offenses prescribed here have the highest penalties. And the species listed in Schedule 3 and Schedule 4 are also protected, but the penalties are much lower. So that is the difference between Schedule 1, 2 and 3 and 4. And animals under Schedule 5, they are vermin species which may be hunted freely. So they include common crows, fruit bats, rats, mice, which affect the agricultural production, etc. So those things can be hunted freely. So they are in Schedule 5. So least protection is given to species under Schedule 5. And Schedule 6. So the specified endemic plants in Schedule 6 are prohibited from cultivation. They are totally prohibited from cultivation. Recently, there was a question in 2019 asked about Schedule 6 specifically, whether the species mentioned here could be produced with a license or whether they are prohibited completely. The answer is they are prohibited completely. like red vanda, blue vanda, pitcher plant. These are protected to. These are prohibited from cultivation to protect their gene culture. For example, these are high altitude plants. If you start cultivating them in low altitude, or if you mix them with other species and all, their gene pool might get affected, and the original plant might become extinct or endangered in the future. So this is the reason for prohibiting their cultivation. Okay. So let's move on to appendices of Convention on Migratory Species, or the Bonn Convention. Also remember, this is popularly called as Bonn Convention. It has only two appendices. This has only two. So Appendix 1, migratory species threatened with extinction. Okay, only with the species which are threatened with extinction, according to CMS survey, only those species will be added here. And Appendix 2 talks about migratory species requiring international cooperation. So Gangetic dolphin is mentioned in Appendix 2. So it requires international cooperation for its conservation. Okay. So CMS was also in the news because India hosted the 13th Conference of Parties on the Convention of Conservation of Migratory Species of Wild Animals in 2020 at Gandhinagar in Gujarat. So we were the recent host in 2022 CMS. So that adds another important point on why this question might come in your prelims exam. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Question number 6 on science and tech. Consider the following statements with respect to vanadium. Okay, it is a high value metal used in strengthening steel and titanium. Okay, the elemental metal is abundantly found in nature next to aluminium. We know that aluminium is very abundant. Here, this statement says it is abundantly found in nature. And the large deposits of vanadium of the world are in India, followed by Russia. Okay. So you can see there are some inconsistencies here. So they have told it is a high value metal, but they have also told it is abundantly found in nature. We know that only one of these things can be possible. If it is high value, then it must obviously occur in less quantities. So if first statement is correct, second statement is wrong. An option like that is A and C. And if you come to the third point, largest deposits are found in India, followed by Russia. No, this statement is false. So which brings the answer to option A, one only. So let's see more about vanadium. So vanadium is hard, silvery gray, malleable transition metal. Okay, it is a high value metal used in strengthening steel and titanium. So this is a D block metal. You can see here. This is the 23rd element. It is rarely found in nature, and it is usually recovered as a byproduct from iron ores. Okay, vanadiferous magnetite iron ores. According to the data provided by Geological Survey of India, India consumed 4% of total vanadium produced across the globe in 2017. The largest deposits of vanadium are found in China. So that is why China is the leading producer of iron and steel in the world. And this was followed by Russia and South Africa. China produces 57% of the world's vanadium, and it also consumes 47% of the metal. Okay, India is a significant consumer of vanadium, but is not a primary producer of the strategic metal. That is why your third statement is false. Okay, you might wonder why I have asked this question. After all, it is just one random element in the periodic table. You don't have to read about every single element in the periodic table for this exam, but this element is important because recently a news came about how Arunachal Pradesh harbors a vanadium source in India. This could become the primary deposit of the metal in India. This is the first report of a primary deposit metal in India. So this was found in Arunachal Pradesh. That's why this news has prominence and this metal gains prominence. Okay, you don't have to go out and memorize all the metals, their properties and their availability in India. Only look for these special items which comes in the news. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Question number 7. This is from modern India. So consider the following statements regarding the Nehru Report, 1928. It was a report by a committee headed by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Okay, while Jawaharlal Nehru and Subhash Chandra Bose were in favor of Purna Swaraj, most of the leaders were satisfied with dominion status for the time being. So what they are saying is Nehru Report of 1928 talked about dominion status and not Purna Swaraj. And third statement says Muhammad Ali Jinnah voted against this report. So the answer to this question is option C, 2 and 3 only, because this committee was not headed by Jawaharlal Nehru, it was headed by his father Motilal Nehru. The second statement is true. Jawaharlal Nehru and Subhash Chandra Bose, they wanted a Purna Swaraj, complete independence, and they were not satisfied with dominion status. But most of the other leaders were satisfied with dominion status for the time being. And option 3 is Muhammad Ali Jinnah voted against this report. We will see why he voted against this report in the coming slides. Before that, we'll see the main points of the Nehru report. So India would be given dominion status, that is independence within the British Commonwealth, like Canada and South Africa of that time. Given we would also be given dominion status. And India will be a federation which will have bicameral legislature at the center, and the ministry would be responsible to the legislature. And Governor General of India would be the constitutional head of India and will have the same powers as British Crown. And this is the most controversial point between the Congress and the Muslim League. There will be no separate electorate. And the next one is, it also defined the citizenship and fundamental rights. Okay, this document mentioned 19 fundamental rights, including the right to vote for men and women equally from the age of 21. So you can see how revolutionary this document is, because the first time in 1928 we have asked for voting rights for both men and women. So at that time women did not have right to vote even in USA or Britain. Okay, and the novel features of Nehru Committee were almost accepted by the Indian leaders. So almost all of the leaders accepted it, with the exception of Jawaharlal Nehru and Subhash Chandra Bose. And in the next session, that is in the December session of 1928, the Nehru report was adopted by a majority vote. However, this report was not accepted by the British government. Okay. Now let's see why. What was the point of contention between this report and Muslim League? So Muhammad Ali Jinnah's opposition, his opposition is because it mentioned no separate electorate for Muslims. The Nehru Committee report published in 1928 recommended reservation, okay, reservation of seats for Muslims only in provinces where they were in minority. Okay, so on those provinces where they were in majority, for example, Muslim majorities in Punjab and Bengal, separate electorates were to be abolished. Okay, to discard reservation of seats for Muslim majorities and to reject the principle of weightage for Muslim minority. So reservation for places where Muslims are in minority, and in Muslim majorities, there is not even a provision for reservation. Okay. And the Nehru report went on to ask for similar reservation for Hindus in Northwestern Frontier Province, because in this province, Hindus were the minority. So Hindus will be given reservation in NWFP. This was also strongly opposed by Jinnah and Muslim League. The joint and mixed concept was practically unacceptable for the Muslim League, because they wanted separate electorates as well as reservation in majority provinces. Okay. So they were not ready to accept a joint and mixed concept of provided by the Nehru report. This was even called as a reversal of the Lucknow Pact. It was indeed a reversal of the Lucknow Pact. If UPSC asks whether it was a reversal of the Lucknow Pact, you have to answer in the affirmative, because in Lucknow Pact we talked about separate electorates for Muslims. and this Nehru report totally negates that. Okay, so you also have to understand the difference between separate electorates and reservation for seats. For example, if separate electorates are given to Muslims, it means only a Muslim candidate can contest in that electorate, and only the Muslim voters can vote in those electorates. Okay, whereas reservation is certain seats are reserved only for Muslim candidates. Okay, any number of Muslim candidates can contest in these reserved electorates, and all people can vote in those electorates. So that is the difference between separate electorates and, okay, that is also a point that you have to note. So that's all we have here. Let's move on to the next question. So this question is about Ekamra Kshetra. So this is a series of sandstone temples dating back to the 3rd century BC and 15th century AD. So this series of sandstone temples is located in the city of, I'll give you 30 seconds to answer. The answer to this question is B, Bhuvaneshwar. Okay, let's see more about Ekam Kshetra. In 2020, the Odisha state government had planned a beautification project around the Ekam Kshetra area to develop it as a major tourist attraction. Okay, and it is in the temple city of Bhuvaneshwar. So it is a series of ancient sandstone temples, heritage ponds, and water tanks. Its wealth of monuments is a testament to its ancient, continuous architectural and historical heritage, covering over 2000 years, that is from 3rd century to 15th century. So this is a very historically, culturally important place in the city of Bhuvaneshwar, and this is also in the contention for getting UNESCO World Heritage Site tag. Okay, it is in the contention. As of now, it does not have this tag. It is believed that this sacred Kshetra was 10 miles in circumference. Okay, so this area is bordered by Kandagiri Hills in the west, Kundaleshwara temple in the east, Baladevi temple on the north, Rangaveswara temple on the south, with Lingaraj temple in the middle, along with Bindusagar lake. So this is how this will be Lingaraj temple, and we have different temples on different sites. Okay, with the Bindusagar lake here. So this is the Ekam Kshetra complex. So let's see why this was in news. Because of this beautification project which we saw, the beautification project created some damage to this site. You can see the site here. This is the Bindusagar lake. This is the Lingaraj temple. This is surrounded by different temples on all directions. And this damage was recently proved by Archaeological Survey of India team in Bhuvaneshwar. That's why I have asked this question. I want you to understand why Ekam Kshetra is culturally important. You also have to look at the cultural background behind this place. Okay, let's move on to the next question about Bharat Mala Pariyojana. It is an umbrella program for the highway sector envisaged by the Ministry of Rural Development under Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. This is our first statement. Second statement, it aims to optimize the efficiency of freight and passenger movement across the country. I'll give you 30 seconds to answer this question. The answer to this question is option B, 2 only, because this program is taken by the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, not Ministry of Rural Development, and definitely not under Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. We have Bharat Mala Pariyojana, a separate yojana for this construction drive. Okay, so only option 2 is the answer. Let's see more about this program. So this is a umbrella program for the highways sector by Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, and the objectives is to optimize the efficiency of freight and passenger movement. Okay, then there is also the potential to create large number of direct and indirect employment opportunities, and it will also enhance economic activity through better road connectivity across the country. And the ambition is to connect 550 districts through national highway linkages. So the effective interventions include the development of economic corridors. Economic corridors are nothing but the corridors which are connected to boost the economic activity between the places. And we also have inter-corridors and feeder routes. These are nothing but, suppose we have a very busy road here, then we will have a feeder route like this. So like this to ease the congestion. So instead of taking this route, people can take this route and join the destination. Okay. So that these are called feeder routes. We also have a national corridor efficiency improvement, and the program also focuses on border and international connectivity roads, coastal and port connectivity roads for port-led development, and we also have greenfield expressways. So this is all we have about Bharatmala Pariyojana. And the last and final question for this session is about the Zuko Valley. So this Zuko Valley, popularly known as the Valley of Flower, is located at the border of. Only if you know which states, you can answer this question. So the answer to this question is Nagaland and Manipur. Okay. So Zuko Valley, popularly known as the Valley of Flower, is located at the border of Nagaland and Manipur. You can see here. Nagaland here is here, Manipur is here, and this is where Zuko Valley is. And it is situated behind the Japfu mountain range, and the Zuko Valley and Zapfu Peak are located adjacent to the Puli Badzi Wildlife Sanctuary in Nagaland. Here there are no human habitations. Okay, only certain rare and vulnerable species are present here. Even the Nagaland state bird is present in these forests. Okay, they are also home to the endangered western Pulu gibbons. Gibbons are nothing but primates. They are primates endemic to India. So this is where the valley is. Just have a look at it, and I'll tell you the reason why I've asked this question. So this region was in the news because of the forest fires that occurred in the valley. This region is prone to forest fires in all these years. Okay, and it is also a source of conflict for ownership between the local tribes of Manipur and Nagaland. It is home to Angami people. They are the tribes living in this valley. And I would also like to share some of the findings of the 2019 Forest Survey of India report. According to this report, 21% of India's forest cover is prone to forest fires. And especially the northeastern region, central Indian forests are the most vulnerable. And while the overall green cover has increased in the country, the forest cover in the northeast, particularly Mizoram, Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, has decreased. Okay, the reasons could be forest fire. Okay, this is also certain add-ons to you for this question. And this question is asked because there was a massive fire in Zuko Valley on Nagaland Manipur border. Okay, and this is also famous for its seasonal flowers and biodiversity. And this happened in December. Only in January, this wildfire was doused. That is, it was brought under control. So that's why this valley takes prominence. So that's all we have in this session. Let's have a quick recap of different questions we saw in this session. We saw about money bill, the powers Lok Sabha and has over money bill. Unlike Rajya Sabha, we saw about the reasons for increasing fiscal deficit in the country. We have Senkaku Islands. We saw about Senkaku Islands and how it is a trilateral dispute. Trilateral dispute. Okay, between Japan, China, and Taiwan. And we also saw about the India Innovation Index, Karnataka top, and the reasons why Karnataka top, and Delhi topped among union territories, and Himachal Pradesh among small states. Okay, We saw about gangetic dolphins, different appendices in CITES and in CMS, and different schedules under Wildlife Protection Act. Okay, and we saw about vanadium and how we recently discovered our first primary source of vanadium in Arunachal Pradesh. We also saw about a Nehru report and Muhammad Ali Jinnah's opposition. We saw Ekam Kshetra in Bhubaneswar, Bharatmala Pariyojana, and Zuko Valley in the borders between Nagaland and Manipur. Okay, these are the 10 questions we saw today, and I hope this was useful for you. And I want you to kindly tune in for upcoming sessions. And if you have any queries, please write it in the comment section. We would be really happy to solve all of your queries. Thank you. I will see you in another session.